This training video will cover the use of the new recording functionality found in SongSurgeon version 4. You can access that functionality from this button right here. If we select it, it opens this dialog window, and let's walk through this window and talk about these different settings and what your options are and how you use them. So at the top part of this recording dialog window, we have a couple of options. In this first drop down, we have new file, current file. If you select current file, that means that it will insert whatever it is that you record into this existing file that's open within SongSurgeon that you can see in the background here. And when you do that, if you select current file, you have the option of selecting whatever you record and inserting it at the beginning or the current position being the location of wherever this white progress indicator line is on your screen. So that's current position. The end obviously would be at the end of the file, and specified time, if we select that, means that you can set exactly where you want it to occur. If you want it to occur at 11.11 seconds, then you can put it there. So that is the first set of options that you have. The second set then is if we go back up to this destination and we select new file. In that case, we're not worried about the positioning because there is nothing in a new file. It's empty, it's blank. So there are no selections down here to be made. But what you do have in terms of attributes here is you can select whether you want this to be a standard CD quality recording, which would be 44:1, 16-bit stereo, whether you want it to be mono, or whether you would like it to be one of these other settings here that you can also choose from this drop-down window. The next section of this dialog that's open is the recording control section, and we'll now look at that. And it's pretty straightforward and intuitive. You have a start, a pause, and a stop button. You have some level meters over here, and as it's recording, it shows you the amount of time that's elapsed. It also shows you the recording attributes. In this case, it tells us we have 44.1 Hertz, 16-bit stereo selected. So let's go ahead and start the recording. And we're recording right now, and you can see the level meters bouncing up and down. You can see what your levels are. And if at any time your recording levels are too high and you clip, you'll see what happens. You see it turns red and it says clip up there. So that is how you can tell and monitor where your recording levels are and keep them in check. Obviously, if you pause, it pauses the recording and allows you to stop what you're doing and then restart it at some point in the future, whether it's a few seconds or a few minutes, or I suppose even a few hours later if you needed to do that for some reason. And then lastly, we have the stop button, and if we select stop, essentially it stops the recording, and then that automatically moves us to this next step, which says with current recording, what do you want to do? Do you want to preview it? And if you preview it, it will actually play it back and allow you to hear it. Do you want to start over, which means to say, do you want to delete it or dump it and start recording again, or do you want to keep it? If you choose to keep this file, it will do whatever you've instructed it to do up here. That is to say that if the destination file is the current file, it's going to insert it in this current file that's open on your machine. If you have selected something besides the current file, which would be a new file, then it's going to insert this into a brand new file, and it would open it up in SongSurgeon as well. So in either case, the last thing we will review is the use of these two buttons at the bottom of the recording dialog window, recording devices and recording level. As we go through this, please keep in mind that this video is being made on a Windows 7 machine. So if you have a different operating system, what you see might be slightly different. There are 4 important steps that we will review in this last part of the video. They are: number 1, for recording purposes, you must select only items that are found in the recording tab. Number 2, once you select an item, you must set it as a default item for use by Windows. Number 3, you should turn off any other devices that show a signal input. And number 4, you should check and set recording levels and then run a short 5 to 10 second test before proceeding with your recording. So let's go ahead and look at each of these 4 items in detail. Once you click this Recording Devices tab, it opens this window within. It will insert the recording in a SongSurgeon window. And you can see we have several tabs up at the top. And the one that you must select, and I underlined and underscore that word again, must select, is recording, because anything that you see anywhere else is really immaterial to what we're doing when we're trying to record within SongSurgeon. And what you'll normally find is in this recording tab, if you have any type of an internal microphone, it will be set by default. And as you can see here, that is indeed the case with my particular computer. Now, if you have a special external mic or any other type of a plug-and-play recording device that you'd like to plug in, once you plug it in, it should appear in this list, and then once it appears in this list, you can select it. One other important and very useful option is the ability to record system audio. On my machine, you can see the stereo mix card here has been selected, and this is the recording device I would use if I wanted to record system audio. On most newer machines, you should see something similar. However, be aware that some sound cards may not have the ability to record system audio, and this is especially true on older machines. If you determine that to be the case with your computer, there is at least one workaround, and I would encourage you to go to the help desk for more information about that. Recording the stereo mix is very useful because literally anything you can hear through your computer, you can record. Think of YouTube videos, internet radio, musical instruments. You get the idea here. Lastly, you should be aware that on Vista machines and newer, you should be able to right-click in this area with your mouse, and you should see a secondary menu here. And this is important because if you're looking for an input device that you don't see, it simply could be that this box that says Show Disabled Devices isn't selected, and therefore if it's a disabled device it will not appear. Similarly with disconnected devices. So keep in mind that you can right-click and you can look at this list, and you can modify this list by simply checking or unchecking these different selections within this right-click menu. The second item in our 4-point list that we started with at the beginning of this segment of the video is setting a device's default. Now this is very simple to do, but it's very important because if you don't do it, the recording simply won't work. So once you've decided upon a device, and in this case I'm going to assume that I'm doing stereo mix, you select it, and as you can see it's highlighted, but that is insufficient. You also must set this as a default. And when I do that, you can see the checkbox that goes on here to tell me it's been selected as a default. So make certain that you do this with whatever device you're going to record from, because if you don't do it, it won't be used by your operating system as the default device, and you may get something else or you may not get anything at all. Step 3 in our 4-step list is to make sure you have input from only one device at a time. This is also simple but important. If you have more than one recording device sending a signal, the quality of your recording could be diminished. So it is important to disable or turn off the other device that might be active. Well, how do you tell if you have another device active? Well, on my machine, if you take a look, remember we set the stereo mix as the default device, but see this indicator here? You can see that something else is also still active, and that's how you can tell, at least in the newer operating systems, that you have input coming from this device as well as you will be having input coming from this device. So to turn this off, you simply go back to your right-click menu, right-click, select Disable, and when you do that, you'll see that the input level meter here will cease to show any input level coming in. I would do that for you, but if I do that, the video that I'm recording, the audio would disappear, so I can't actually do it. But once you do that, this green level indicator will stop working, and this little checkbox will be removed from it, so you'll know that it's been disabled. And then what you need to remember is that once you're done recording with everything, if this is one of your main input devices that your computer uses regularly, you would need to come back in, right-click, and And instead of disable, you will see an option here to enable the device, and at that point you would simply select enable, and it would then enable this device, and you would see the level indicator start to work again. So you need to remember to do that once you're done recording in SongSurgeon to take your system or to return your system back to normal. And step 4 is setting the actual input levels for the recording device. So let's take a look at how we do that. If we go to the integrated microphone array here and we select properties, you'll see that what appears in this next window are several tabs again. If you go to the levels tab, you can see within here we have a couple of things, both of which will affect the output or the loudness of the volume. One is the microphone slider here, which basically is a numerical number between 0 and 100. And this other one down here is a microphone boost. Now, primarily what we need to be concerned about is just the input level. In this case, I would start by setting it something about halfway in between. And then once you've set it at that, go ahead and apply it by clicking OK. And then once you've done that, I would go ahead and record a small 5 to 10 second segment of whatever it is you're going to record so you can test these levels. It is always best to use the loudest part of whatever it is you plan on recording to set your levels with. And after you record this, select the keep button, which should be this button here, and then allow it to open in SongSurgeon so you can see the data plotted in the waveform file, this area here, and you can determine how close you are to the edges because you really don't want this to clip. And while it is true that you can see the levels in SongSurgeon as you're recording by looking at these level indicators here, the levels that appear are only temporary and it's hard to gauge exactly where you are, so it's much easier to look at it within this waveform window. So let's go ahead and do that. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop it. Select keep. Let it open. And here's what we see. We see input levels here that look pretty good to me because you want to fill most of the waveform area here, but you don't want to push the boundaries completely because if you do, then it will clip, and as you probably all know, clipping means that we have a lot of distortion. So these levels look pretty good. If you didn't like the levels that you saw, essentially all you would do is you would go back to SongSurgeon, select recording devices again, open this window up, go back to whichever one that you were using. In this case, we're using the integrated microphone array. Go back to properties, go back to levels, and then if you were too loud, you would adjust it a little lower. If you were too soft, you would adjust it a little louder. And you could test it again, but make certain that, especially if you're going to be recording something that's 5, 10, 15 minutes long, that you have the correct levels before you start, because you don't want to get to the end of that 15-minute recording only to find out that you've got lots of distortion and clipping in it. If you have to err, I would say it's better to err on the soft side, on the lower volume side, because you can always use SongSurgeon to adjust the volume upwards. But if you have clipping, it's almost impossible to get rid of it. As we close, let me just state again that it is important to understand that every machine is different. Different OSs, different sound cards, different recording devices, and it may very well take you a significant amount of time to understand what you need to select on your computer to be able to record what you'd like to record. Due to differences in machines, we cannot give you precise instructions for your machine. So instead, you're going to have to spend some time and experiment with your machine and with the different settings to understand exactly what you need to select to be able to use the SongSurgeon recording function efficiently. And remember, the actual recording within SongSurgeon is simple and quite straightforward, but it is really the understanding of your machine and what you need to do to find the right input device and get the level set correctly using these two buttons down here at the bottom, which really are unrelated to SongSurgeon and related to your operating system. These are the difficult things you're going to struggle with. The actual use of SongSurgeon's recording functionalities are indeed straightforward and simple.